1,000 young Americans slaughtered. And speaking of thefts, it was politicians who stole their lives. They were young, laughing, breathing people. And thank God these young men have gone home. If I seem to be standing in an unusual way and walking up here, it's because I was banged up in another unconstitutional, illegal presidential war. And maybe that's why I feel more strongly than some people do. These politicians in Washington who would be heroes on somebody else's time are running up a cost to the United States ultimately that could become $3 trillion. That's $3,000 billion with nothing to show for it. As a matter of fact, this administration ordered there would be nothing to show for it because they forbade the news media to photograph the caskets of the people they killed. I wonder why. I had a congresswoman who called me maybe 3 minutes before she cast a vote against this outrage. And she told me that in view of the panic and jingoism in the country, in consequence of that vote, she expected to lose the next election. But she voted against it anyway. Her simple statement to me was, I cannot vote to kill innocent people. It has no relationship, none whatsoever, with the defense of our country. The stories that were told, the fraud that was told, well, in the words of George Bernard Shaw, it is a prodigious wrong which neither can nor ever should be forgiven. So, that congresswoman, my little sister, Julia Carson, by circumstance, had the responsibility of rearing a little boy. I've known that little boy since he was born. And he is, when I went to Congress, I had been a police officer. When I went to Congress, I had a graduate degree. When I went to Congress, my name was Andy. Now, I'm thinking of another guy whose name is André, which is pretty close. And following precedent, I'm thinking of a guy named André who has a graduate degree. I'm thinking of a guy named André who had a career as a police officer. I'm thinking of a guy named André who was a trusted agent of Homeland Security. I'm thinking of a guy named André who has the courage to stand up against the slaughter. President Reagan sent American troops to a war in Lebanon to stand between the two sides of the Civil War. 242 Marines were slaughtered, and he realized he had made a mistake. And this I'll say for President Reagan. Apart from the fact that he's an awful sweet guy, I knew it. This I'll say for President Reagan. When he realized that he had committed a blunder, he didn't sit around and talk about it. He didn't try to, what my friend Jim Seidenstick recalls, file a motion to amend the facts. What he did was get the troops out. His exit strategy was to exit and take them out between that Civil War. So, I don't know. There's some tall, skinny guy from Illinois, sort of a latter-day Abraham Lincoln, I think, who had the sense to be against this thing. right from the start. Therefore, he was right from the start. And I have I guess he'd be my nephew since his mom was my sister, who I just couldn't be more proud of anybody. André Carson, our congressman, who's making us proud.
Thank you, Congressman, who has been my Obi-Wan Kenobi in this political process. Friends, we have a problem here. We have an arrogant administration who several years ago used the sacred language of religion, who began to proselytize to justify this war. Several weeks ago, I was in Beech Grove, Indiana. I tell this story because it touches me. A woman came up to me and said, "André, I want to give you a pendant." The pendant is one of the earth resting on the wings of a dove. She said, "André, it represents two things. It represents one, it represents peace. And secondly, it represents my son who will be sent off to war in a few weeks. Her son will join my very best friend of 30 years, Reginald Williams, the father of two twin girls, in this war that's unjustified." Congresswoman Julia Carson, several years ago, was against this war. She took a bold stance against this war. Even the police officer and me at the time questioned her anti-war proclivities. Years later, we see she was a visionary. She was a thinker. She was a real bold leader. That's what leadership is all about. Being able to stand up and speak truth to power, even though it's not politically correct, even though it's not politically expedient. She, like Congressman Andy Jacobs, willing to stand up and speak out against this war. 4,000 of our men and women have died as a result of this war. Over 100 of them Hoosiers. 4 of them out of the 7th Congressional District. We have spent $800 million alone out of the 7th Congressional District for this war effort. For what? We spend billions of dollars, $12 billion a month, friends, to build roads and to build schools in Iraq when our own schools are failing. When was the last time you hit a pothole? We have to end this war. We need the kind of bold leadership that will stand up like you're doing, like we're doing to the Bush administration, and say we're not going to let you proselytize. Stop helping big business and corporate interests and end this war. Thank you.
All right, André Carson, thank you very much for coming here today and speaking to us.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, we're very fortunate.